Now here's a bit of a demo on how to render a brick wall. Now if you're dealing with an external brick wall, you may need to acid wash it first. One of the first things you'll need to do is to remove or cover any fixtures on the wall, and also you want to cover the floor with either drop sheets or some plastic. We're using a dry mixed cement render, and all that's required is to add water. Now when mixing, make sure you read the manufacturer's instructions. This should give you the ratio of water to use, and make sure you use the same ratio for each bag you mix. The first step is to fill in the mortar joins. Start from the top and work down, and try to keep the face of the wall clean from trowel lines or thick areas. You'll need to apply a certain amount of pressure when troweling off. If you go too hard, then you may actually drag the render out of all the joins, and if you go too soft, you may leave lumps over the wall, like little raised areas. Now this is Ray, and it's his first time ever attempting to do any render work. Now as you can see, we've put the first coat on. Now the idea of the first coat was to fill in all the mortar joins. Now that's all been done, but before we do the second coat, we have to give the walls a bit of a block off. Now when I say that, we're using a masonry block. This one's a little bit coarse. This one here will be fine for what we need to do. All it is a small, or a light rub over, just to knock off any lumps on the wall. We're using the same product for the second coat. The first coat is basically to fill all the mortar joins, and when we're doing the second coat, this is basically to make sure we get a nice even surface. If you only do one coat, the chances are that the mortar joins will sink in and end up showing out. Start from the top corner as before. When you have applied approximately 1 or 2 square metres, you'll need to level off the surface. Using the trowel with a consistent pressure, trowel over the surface. This should give you a consistent thickness. Keep working from top to bottom, then back to the top. Remember to use the same amount of pressure when levelling off. If needed, you can use a foam float to level if required. Okay, we've finished our second coat. Ready now for our third and final coat. As you can see, it's filled in all the mortar joints quite nicely. Hopefully now none of these will show through. So before you start your final coat, once again you need to block the walls down. Just lightly again, just to take off any lumps. Also, it's a good idea to make sure your work site's nice and clean. Now there will be a lot of bits of old render lying around on the ground. Well, in our case there is. So you want to clean all that up so you don't drag it through into your final coat. So start with a nice clean area and you shouldn't have a problem. Just remember, block the wall off, clean area, and you should be fine. Now the next step will be to apply a coat or a top coat of the acrylic render, but make sure the previous coat is dry, and that includes the mortar joints. If they're not dry, they could actually shrink a little bit, therefore they can actually show up in the final finish. Apply the render as before, start from the top and work down. Now you need to apply a reasonable amount of pressure to level out the render. When you've applied approximately 4 to 8 square metres, you'll need to go back and level off the area with a plastic float. In cool conditions, you might be able to complete the whole wall before floating off, like we have here. When floating off, work in a circular motion. This will level out the area and give you an even finish. And make sure you continuously clean the float. If you find any tiny misses, just apply a small amount of render and use the float to work it in until it's not visible. So this has been just a bit of a demo on how to render a wall.